Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of Financial First Aid, where we assist bankrupt entrepreneurs go from bankruptcy to broke. From broke to bankrupt to bank and abundance, and show them that bankruptcy is not an end, but actually a beginning to a fresh start. Financial First Aid, we motivate, educate, and inspire. Today, we have the great pleasure of welcoming Mr. Azim Sharp of Leaf Credit Solutions. Back in 2008, when the housing market crashed, so did his credit. He lost several homes to foreclosure, he couldn't pay his expenses, and his credit was ruined. He knew that he had to do something to get his life back on track. He was frustrated and depressed. But Mr. Sharp realized that the traditional credit repair tactics were not working for him. So he began studying how the credit system works. He realized that there was information that credit bureaus did not want the average consumer to know. In the past several years, he's been able to move his credit rating from poor to excellent. He's achieved quite a bit of success helping others go from bad to excellent credit. And in today's world, almost every opportunity is for financial security, success, and status is connected to your credit report. Most things you want for yourself and your family is connected to your credit. Your credit is connected to buying a house, a car, personal loans, and employment. How much you pay for those loans is determined by your credit. Today's traditional education system fails to teach how important your credit rating is and how it can impact various parts of your life. Mr. Sharp receives a great deal of gratification when a client tells him an approval for their mortgage provided them with an opportunity to purchase a home closer to their children's school. He feels privileged to know by helping people solve their credit problems, they are able to reach their goals. That is the reason he started Leaf Credit Solutions. And thank you. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
What is the primary focus of your company, Mr. Sharp?
My primary focus is to help people restore their credit so they can get the things that they want and need for themselves and their families. And then two, not just to do that, but to educate them on the power of their credit, the things that they can do in life with good credit, because as we stated, almost every opportunity for financial success and status is some way is connected to your credit report, whether you're getting an apartment, whether you're trying to get a loan, no matter what, buying a home, it's connected to your credit report, and it impacts us tremendously, especially in our communities.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of, motivated you to start your journey towards entrepreneurship?
Good question. Well, I've been an entrepreneur just naturally, honestly, all my life. Ever since I remember I had I started selling when Kool-Aid was 10 cents a pack. I would buy the 10 cent packs of Kool-Aid and I would make it up and put it in jugs and I would sell it for $0.25 a cup.
There you go.
I had that entrepreneurial spirit. I was born with it. I would shovel snow in the wintertime growing up. I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and shovel snow in the wintertime. I would clean up barbershops and sweep up. So I've been an entrepreneur all my life. And I love the freedom that entrepreneurship brings.
Okay.
The freedom that it gives you, the choices that you can make. And there's no limitations when you are an entrepreneur.
It's true. So you had the hustle spirit ever since you were a child.
Oh, yeah. Like Jay-Z said, I got a hustler spirit. I've always had a hustler spirit. It was in me. My grandfather was a hustler. He owned several businesses, and back in the day, he was what they call a numbers guy. He got his money that way, and he branched off into other businesses. But it was something that was just kind of like bred in me.
That's fantastic. I don't know how many people know about that, but that was very prevalent in the Black community back in the day.
Yeah, my grandfather did. He did it pretty big to his name, Johnny Sharp. And my grandfather, he did it for a long time, and then he branched off and owned nursing homes and restaurants and properties, and he did a lot of business. But Yeah, entrepreneurship is great.
Right. That was a good way to make some money to be able to invest in other things that were not only legitimate, but lucrative as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. So did you ever have a regular 9-to-5 job?
I'm 45 years old. Probably in my 45 years, I've probably worked maybe a total of maybe 4 to 5 years. During high school, what I did was I worked at a golf course, and I worked at an all Jewish country club called Cedar Hill Country Club in Livingston, New Jersey. And I caddied all summer long. Now, I wasn't, on the clock for anyone. I worked independently, but that really opened up my eyes to, I learned a lot of lessons on that golf course because I watched a lot of older African-American males, and they were great at what they did, but a lot of them were carrying the bags of, younger Jewish guys. And they, and it's not to take anything away from either groups, but I saw a lot of lessons, and I was like, okay. And my mother sometimes she would pick me up, and she asked me, she said, hey, are you going to be the golfer or are you going to be the caddy? And at the time I was younger, I was a caddy. And I took great pride in what I did. I enjoyed it, and I made really good money. At the time, I was in high school making $400 or $500 a week, and this was in the 90s. And, it was good, but I learned a lot of lessons there about entrepreneurship, about investing. And, I heard a lot of great conversations on that golf course. Mm-hmm.
A good way to learn just by listening.
Exactly.
It's so interesting because you were decades beyond my father, but my father did the same thing when he was growing up. Really? Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. And he was down in South Carolina. So, he probably was listening to a whole bunch of conversations as well.
Right. Yeah.
So what kind of made you say, I'm not a good fit for the 9-to-5 thing?
A couple of times I remember, I think I was 13 and I was working at McDonald's in Vauxhall. Uh-huh. And I think I wanted to go to lunch, and I was hungry, and the manager or somebody told me I couldn't go. And I said, you know what? I think I might have left that day or walked off the job, but I was just like, you know what? Hey, I'm hungry and I want to be able to eat when I want to eat, or if I need to go do something I need. And it wasn't a good fit for me. And it's not to take anything away from anyone who works, because there's some people who, if everybody was an entrepreneur, there'd be no employees.
That's true.
And so entrepreneurship, I guess, is not for everyone. And I understand that. But for me, I knew that it was not for me. Mm-hmm. And that I had a different purpose. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make my purpose better, but I had a different purpose. Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a time when, you really got discouraged being that entrepreneur person and thought maybe this isn't a good fit for me?
Oh, yeah, it happens. It happens. Sometimes it happens once a week. But, sometimes you get those moments where you just want to kind of give up, or, if you have a slow time in business or you go through things, you may second guess what you're doing during those slow seasons, or it could be a season where you just feel, or days or weeks, you feel overwhelmed. I know at a point in my business, sometimes there was like, I felt overwhelmed, and it took the joy out of what I was doing. I love what I do, educating people about their credit, fixing credit, helping people who could not buy a home be able to buy a home within a couple of months. I take great pride in being able to do that. But there's times where I didn't have the infrastructure of my business set up properly. And I worked so much in the business as opposed to on the business. Mm-hmm. And a true business owner, if you have to physically be there every day, that's not a business. Right. I learned that. I watch a lot of people that are slaves to their business. Mm-hmm. It's not a business, and the business cannot run without them. So I learned the importance of setting up workflows, automations, systems and processes so that things automatically happen, training guides for people and that's why McDonald's don't make the greatest burgers, but their systems and their processes are phenomenal,
Right.
you know,
Right.
where a 13-year-old can come in, and it happens all the time, and they can work within the system.
Exactly.
You know?
What was the thing that kind of kept you focused on moving towards building those structures and those systems?
Just constantly like being at my kids' sporting events, and, you know, whether it's getting phone calls and this problem or that problem, or being on vacation and I'm like, okay, I got to process this payment and go here and go there, and constantly being pulled away, and never being, even with my children, or never being able to be in the moment, because I was always pulled away by the business, which was not set up properly as a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it made me say, okay, hey, well, you've got to do some things differently. You've got to set up things differently, so this can be an actual business, and I'm not just a glorified employee, you know? So.
Yes, indeed. So I kind of gave my listeners a short history of your story. Would you like to, just give us a little bit more details about what happened during the Great Recession of 2007, 2008 that kind of made you reinvent yourself?
Yeah, at the time, too, I was in real estate, and I used to buy houses and flip houses, and I did that. And financially, I did very well. I did some new construction. But I didn't. I got into real estate because I enjoyed the money part of it, but I didn't really have a love for it. So when the market crashed, I was working on either 4 or 5 projects at a time, and at that particular time, and everything crashed. I lost a whole lot of money, and I couldn't sustain anymore. And I had all my eggs just in that one basket, and my credit was destroyed. I couldn't get anything. I couldn't get approved for anything, because as we said before, your credit is tied to everything. So I was in a position where losing houses, losing cars, just losing everything, and had to kind of restructure. And I said, hey, I don't want to do real estate anymore. Mm-hmm. So I transitioned into, I don't know how credit repair just seemed like it was a natural progression, because I used to have clients when I bought houses and went to go sell them, who always had credit issues. Okay. And some of them, they might have loved the home, but standing in that home, they realized, okay, I love this home, but here we ran your credit and you can't qualify for this home. And I used to see the disappointment on so many people on their faces. And I said, hey, I've got to be able to do something about this. And I always had, a love for law and loopholes and understanding the law. When I was a kid, I used to always say, I'm going to be a criminal attorney, either a corporate lawyer or a criminal attorney. And, I just had a feeling. I said, you know what, let me kind of run with this. I started studying the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the Fair Credit and Billing Act, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, all of these consumer laws that impact your credit. And I started fixing my own credit, fixed my wife's credit, and she had several foreclosures because some of the houses were in her name. I had investment properties in Paterson, New Jersey, and Newark and East Orange. And, we lost all of those things and fixed our credit. And then I started fixing the credit of family members, and I built a business out of it. And I realized that I was good at what I did. The unfortunate part is a lot of people are in the credit repair space, and some people assume that, hey, I've seen one credit repair company or individual, I've seen them all, but that's not the case. I was really, really good at what I was doing. So I birthed the business out of it, and I've been doing it ever since, full time. From day one, when I decided that I was going to jump into it, I was able to do it full time, and, be able to get my family, my wife and my children out of a mess. And I felt responsible, because as a man, you always want to handle your responsibility and take care of your family. And that's, that's in us as males, or at least it should be. And, I knew that I had to get us out of the mess, and I was able to do that. So
what about that experience made you do things differently, besides repairing the credit? What other things did you kind of do to make yourself, to put yourself and your family in a better position?
So, I started, remember I said, I started really working on the systems in the business and working on building my business and building my brand and educating myself, and doing things as far as business wise, saying that, let me do some things that don't require me, because somebody posed something to me and said, hey, if you went into a coma tomorrow, right, and you couldn't do anything else, what would happen?
Right.
Can you sustain?
Right.
So I started setting up, whether it be courses and systems and ebooks and things that would outlive me, or if I went into a state that I couldn't do anything, that we could still sustain. I set those things up in my business. Something that would benefit my clients and my customer base, but also benefit myself, because I was like, I got to think past the day to day, that if I don't get up tomorrow for whatever reason, or if anything happens, life happens, that we can still sustain. That's why, to me, webinars are important, ebooks, books. Just think about a songwriter. That songwriter writes that song once, right? Puts that song together, but it sells for years and years and outlives them. James Brown, his family is still getting paid off of the songs that he wrote, so that's why it's important to set those things up. That way you can make money while you sleep. That's important.
Yes, indeed. So you began to really reinvent yourself, basically, from the whole experience.
Yeah, it definitely did, because I was like, I shouldn't have to get up every day, because even when I was in real estate, and if you buy properties and you hold properties, you can make money off of that. And real estate is a great investment, don't get me wrong. But I was just like, what? I just realized that I didn't want to do it anymore, but I needed to do something that didn't require me to physically be there anymore, because the business that I run now, I could leave the country for 3 or 4 months or go to different states. Like I was somewhere for about 5 months a couple of weeks ago, and I just came back. But, I was able to run the business from where I was.
Right.
And that was the beauty. And I love that freedom. Again, remember I said entrepreneurship gives you freedom. Some businesses give you different forms of freedom in different ways. Of course, if you have a brick and mortar, well, not saying you don't necessarily have to be there, but my business gives me the freedom to be able to be in a different country or be anywhere, because I have employees in different states. So I enjoy that aspect of it, and being able to help people from anywhere. And I don't have to physically go see them to help them.
So at this point, of your career, because you've been doing this for a while, I know you've helped, probably thousands of individuals rebuild their credit. What kind of advice would you give them to help them kind of restart their change their position to kind of get restarted into doing something that is going to move them forward? What would you say to them?
Like as far as their credit is concerned, or just
as far as your credit's concerned in general, however, what do you think would be just a really good piece of advice to give them to get them to move forward if they're in a situation where their credit has been impacted in a real negative way?
One thing that I would say whether it's them starting a business, fixing their credit, just do it. Most people procrastinate. They think about, they overanalyze everything. And I'm not saying you just jump and do something, but a lot of people procrastinate. Tomorrow is not promised. You don't know what tomorrow may bring or what may happen. So take action today. The journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step. Okay. And the thing is true. They say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, one bite at a time. So, a lot of times we get overwhelmed with situations, or we look at a checklist and, we overanalyze things. But I would just say, if I could give any advice, whether it be with your credit or whatever, to do it, take action today.
And what do you think kind of a step-by-step approach would be to them, improving or changing what their credit is? I know you said earlier you educated yourself. You think that's a good way to start for them to actually start learning about the whole credit system and how it works?
Yeah, that's very important. One, because if you've got credit issues, right, whether you're hiring a credit repair company or you're going to do it on your own, it's important that you understand, one, how credit works. Two, that if you're going to engage in the credit restoration process, that you know the steps. Oftentimes I talk to people, prospects who are not yet a client of mine, and they're going to become a client. And they say, hey, I was going to repair my own credit. And I say, hey, well, let me ask you a question since you're going to embark on that journey. If the credit bureaus come back and they say that this account belongs to you, what's your next step? And they say, I don't know. I say, well, you shouldn't be repairing your own credit or starting that journey if you don't know what the response is.
Exactly.
Most consumers don't know what LexisNexis is, right? So they don't know what CoreLogic or SageStream, their experience is with the big three, but there are other bureaus. You have to understand how to freeze accounts, how to force creditors to validate the debt, that if a creditor is not licensed in the state that they're looking to collect that debt, then they actually are not able to do that, but they never let the consumer know that when they call. So there's a lot of rights that the consumer has, but I would say learn what your rights are as a consumer, understand credit and how it works, because you're going to be using credit for the rest of your life. Why not understand it? Whether you're going to hire somebody or not, because when you're more knowledgeable, when you get on the phone, I've talked to people who have told me, hey, I've talked to 5 credit repair companies and none of them told me what you just told me. And wow, that really blew my mind. But when you understand and you know what you're doing and you know what you're talking about, meaning from the consumer side, not from me, then you understand, okay, this individual knows what they're talking about, right? Just like if you knew about tires and you were going to purchase a tire, then nobody can pull anything over your eyes. Nobody can tell you something that just doesn't sound right because you're knowledgeable in that area. You're going to be using credit for the rest of your life. So I would tell people to become knowledgeable about credit.
Mm-hmm. And if not, then they hire you.
Yeah, they can hire me or hire another professional, and it's okay. And I'm biased because it's me. I'd say, hey, hire me. Me and my staff, because I'm not a one-man show, thank God. But I would say if you are, I even give people, hey, if you're going to hire a credit repair company, I have a whole report on how to properly hire a credit repair company and the questions that they should actually ask.
That's good.
It's a report that I can provide to your listeners, and it's an excellently written report, and it's a lot of thorough information, and it's like a 3-page report, but and it's a very easy read, but it really opens up your eyes, because some people, even when they go to choose a credit repair company, they look for just the cheapest price. And you get some people who are the opposite. They look for the most expensive. Right. And it's not based on price. Right. It's what's the value of what you're getting for your money. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that I already know when I get on the phone with a person and they first ask me, that first question out of their mouth is, how much does it cost? I know that they're the wrong person. Because and it's not to disrespect them, but it's like, okay, well, if the first thing you ask out of your mouth is how much does it cost, I know that this is not going to be a good fit for you. You should ask, what am I getting for my money? Ask questions about how our process works. And then maybe one of your last questions should be, what are the costs associated with this service? You have so many credit repair companies popping up, $59 to enroll, $99 to enroll. And it's not to take anything away from those companies, but consumers have to realize that those companies their job is just to enroll as many people as they possibly can, and not to do an actual good job with those consumers. And I have a saying that good credit repair ain't cheap and cheap credit repair ain't good. So, and that's the God's honest truth. I see some people that go to companies like Lexington Law and they come back to me 6 months later and they don't realize the average consumer is with Lexington Law 12 to 18 months. And although you might have paid a cheaper price to get started, you're going to spend more money in the long run.
Right. Right.
So, it's just that a lot of people are just not educated on the process. And even if they're going to hire a person, what to look for, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. This is true. Absolutely. Yes. So, yeah, the consumer should be more results focused as opposed to price.
And not just price driven. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. That's really good. That's good advice there. So what would you say to a new entrepreneur that's, just getting started? What kind of should be one of their focuses besides the credit, their credit status or standing?
One thing I would say, and I always tell all entrepreneurs or just business owners, learn marketing.
Excellent.
You've never heard of a business going out of business because they had too much business. Never, right?
That's good.
But you get so many entrepreneurs who a restaurant closes its doors because they can't get people in the door.
Right.
Now, some of them, the food wasn't good, but and they had enough people in the door, but the food wasn't good. But people don't typically close because they had too many customers.
Okay.
So it's important to understand and know marketing. Nothing gets done until something gets sold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I first started my business, I had a partner in the business, and he used to always say, "Hey, I'm the back end," and because I was more the sales and the marketing guy. I was the face of the business, and he was more administrative. And him and I didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I used to say, "Hey, listen, if I don't sell, you won't have anything to do." Right. So, and I learned that, hey, nothing gets done until something gets sold. You can have all the systems and the processes in the world, but if you can't get people and bodies in the door, and it doesn't have to be through a physical door, but if you don't have customers, the doors are going to shut.
Mm-hmm. Now that you've had these years of experience, hindsight is always 20/20 vision. What might you have done differently, now that you've gone through some of these experiences than you would have done previously in your previous life?
Right. I would have set up systems and processes earlier on in the business.
Okay.
Set up the infrastructure of the business. And we've done that now, but I would have done that when I first started. I would have started hiring earlier and scaling and not try to micromanage the business, because then I just became just a slave to the business. And I bought myself a glorified job. And, now things are different, but I just wish that I had done those things earlier. Okay. It's important. I tell business owners, free yourself from the business, set up systems and processes. Mm-hmm. I hired a business coach a long time ago. And he said, if you cannot take a binder or a manual, and nowadays it's more so video, you can have an online library of videos, because we use video in my business a lot, and hand that over to somebody and they see how to run your business, then you don't have a business.
Right.
Because if you've got to be in the day-to-day, then that's not a business. And I see so many people who can't. And whether they say they love the business and they do it for the love, you eventually burn out. Mm-hmm. So I would say systems and processes and automation, is very important in business.
I might just have to have you back on just to discuss that issue.
Yeah. And I love that too. I love marketing and I love sales. I love to help. Honestly, I love helping other business owners and entrepreneurs. That's not my profession or my forte, but over the years, I've done some here and there, some consultant work. And I was like, wow, this may be something I do towards retirement years, and just become a consultant. But I enjoy that aspect of it, because so many business owners suffer in that area of not having their business properly structured, not having enough sales, and they eventually close their doors. And so many, not just them, the community is impacted by that. Their family is impacted by that. The economy hurts because of that. So it's something that's very, very important.
What are some steps that my listeners can take immediately right now to accelerate their growth and maximize their finances?
One, I would say, get a copy of your credit report.
Okay.
Right? You get a copy of your credit report. You can do that through My FICO online. My FICO is a little bit more costly, and they're going to give you your actual true FICO scores. You can also do that through Identity IQ, which are your Vantage scores. Most people go with Credit Karma, but I would not say use Credit Karma because it's not giving you all 3 bureaus. And in addition to that, I've seen a lot of, just based on my experience, a lot of accounts missing when people came to me with their Credit Karma report. And then when we pulled the report, there were a lot of things that were not showing on Credit Karma. So one, I'd say get a copy of your credit report. 2, manage your finances. I would encourage people to do that. And regularly monitor your credit report. And if you have credit issues, work on them, whether you hire a professional or do it yourself, because people would really be alarmed if they knew the type of monies that they spent every month. And some people, they have an idea, but they just don't address the situation because they just don't want to deal with it. And they're hoping it goes away. But the type of money that's tied to their credit report, the interest that they're paying on their cars and the insurance premiums that they're paying based off of their credit not being good, the opportunities that they miss because they don't have good credit, not having a major credit card and doing the things that they need to do. And a lot of entrepreneurs are funding their business themselves off of their credit cards or whatever it is that they have or their savings. And there's a better way to be able to do it. I work a lot with business owners who I show them how to build credit in their business name as opposed to using their personal credit. So that way they're not personally liable and they don't have to rely upon their personal credit. So that's another thing that we do too. But I would say, monitor your credit, address any credit issues that you have, and, just look to do that. That's very, very important. Very important.
And finally, the podcast here, Financial First Aid, is really focused on educating, motivating, and inspiring entrepreneurs. And so I would like you to kind of close out with one thing that would educate, one thing that would motivate, and one thing that would inspire my listeners.
Okay. Educate, one thing to educate, another one to motivate, and another one to
inspire.
Okay. Educate. Okay. So I'm always, of course, because I'm in the credit space, educating people on credit. One of the things I would say education wise is that if you do have negative accounts on your credit report, they do not have to remain for 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
The burden of proof,
education.
Yeah. So, and negative accounts can be removed from your credit report without you even paying them. Every account on your credit report must be reporting 100% accurately. It must be 100% verifiable, and it must be reporting within the allowable statute of limitations. It must meet all 3 of those requirements. And if it does not, then it can be removed. I don't care if it was a repossession. I don't care if it was a foreclosure. I don't care if it was a student loan. And I say this based on experience because we remove these type of accounts from our clients' credit reports every single day. Right. And most people think that, hey, in order for it to be removed, I've got to pay it. Right. And they don't realize that even if you pay it, it's not going to be removed. It's going to now remain on your credit report for 7 more years from the day that you make the payment. So a lot of consumers are just they're, I wouldn't say lost, but they don't understand that. But those accounts can be removed if there's any discrepancies in the way that they're reporting. The burden of proof falls upon the creditor and not you, the consumer.
Great.
So that's one of the things that I would say education wise.
And then how about motivate?
Motivate. I would say, I heard Steve Harvey say, and I don't know if he was the original, that if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop.
Okay.
If you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop. There are days that seem rough. There are days that are rough, but don't stop. Don't quit. Just continue to persevere and move forward. This year, for me personally, 2021 was the most challenging year of my life on a personal front. And there was days that I felt like giving up. But perseverance builds character, and God uses the situations that we go through to propel us into greatness. And when we are in the middle or the midst of those situations, we just want to be out of it. We want to be out of it. Just like when you stick somebody in the hot water or you put things in fire, but fire refines. It refines. And sometimes God is refining us and we want to get out of the fire. So don't be afraid to go through challenges and keep moving. Don't stop. That's one of the things that I was saying.
That's great motivation. I think you also had mentioned one other time when we talked before, you were saying that your today doesn't have to be your tomorrow. I love that quote. I don't know if that's something you made up somewhere else. But it's so good to tell people that, what your situation isn't forever.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's true. Because a lot of times when we're going through things, we think it feels like forever, it's just nighttime sometimes seems very, very long. Nighttime sometimes feels very long, but morning time is coming. It's tough to go through things, but it's important that we keep moving, we stay inspired, and surround yourself with people who are going to constantly encourage you. That's important. Your circle, the people who are around you, people that are going to uplift you. Don't isolate yourself from people. And I know sometimes that feels like the natural thing to do, to isolate yourself, especially when you're going through something. It's like you're wounded and you want to go lay in a corner, but don't isolate yourself. Stay around people that are going to lift you up, whether it be in prayer or through kind words, and to hold you up and to motivate you and to also help hold you accountable.
That's good. That's inspiration right there. That's beautiful inspiration. And, make people aware that the people that they're around can really help them move forward and become unstuck wherever they're stuck. Yeah. And that, if you focus on something that you really want, you can do it. The only limitations that you have are on yourself. So
Exactly.
This was a great 20, 30 minutes of a podcast. And I really enjoyed this. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your efforts towards helping people get out of their situation. And I look forward to perhaps having you on another time so you can talk about putting those systems together and building your company outside of yourself.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. It's a privilege. And, what you're doing is a great thing, Financial First Aid, and taking the time out of your busy schedule to sow into the lives of other people. It's so important. It's much needed. And thank you for the sacrifice that you're making.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again soon, Mr. Sharp. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.